This week, we've got Metroid Prime, Tears of the Kingdom, Voidtrain, Dark and Darker, mechs, lasers, Gameboys, space guns, skeletons, ninjas, pirates, and laser-gun-mech-robot-ninja-pirates. I promise.
On this episode of Top Gear, I play city colony games. Andy attempts a wet run at a basic bitch tropical place, and Josh falls asleep in the Azores.
Hi, I'm Josh, and the first Pink Ranger, she had a skirt.
I'm
hating it.
That's the intro. Hey, look at us.
My wife.
Thank you. Hey, so
Where is it?
some things.
Where did that come from?
Some things happened today.
They did.
And this a little bit earlier this week, to be honest. We have simultaneously got Steam Next Fest and Nintendo Direct going on.
Steam Next Direct.
We want to talk about those things.
Direct Fest.
Direct Fest.
Got a party right here.
So we're kind of understood as not like the biggest Nintendo nerds in the world. Played a lot of Nintendo growing up, but like, you know, they fell off a little bit.
In a few more years, I'm going to start referring to everything as a Nintendo.
That's true. We're almost to that age.
I mean,
everything is almost a Nintendo again.
Turn off your Mario.
Yeah. True. Yep. I'm going to ground you from your Nintendo. I don't have a Nintendo. It's an Xbox. Nintendo Direct happened. We got a little bit of Pikmin. We got a little bit of retro gaming. We got some Metroid Prime Remastered.
Yeah. That raised the needle, didn't it, y'all?
Yeah, it sure did. Just a little bit. So, I mean, there isn't a whole lot to be said about the Nintendo Direct other than there were a lot of games that nobody here really cares about. They don't fit in with our milieu. You know, they're not necessarily our style. The first one on that list, but barely makes the cut in being a semi-interesting game, is Pikmin 4. It is the fourth Pikmin.
It is more Pikmin.
If you like Pikmin, then you know what you're going to get.
Great.
It looks great. You're
Honestly, yeah.
The level design looks cool. You get a fun little doggo friend. I mean, what's not to love? If you already like this style of game, this is right up your fucking alley.
Yeah, if you like Pikmin, you're gonna. This is the
taking
game.
you home, baby.
Yeah.
It's good stuff.
This is something that absolutely might make it to my list. I mean, I can't ever see myself paying $60 for Pikmin. I'm sorry. Yeah. I just don't think there's that enough of a gameplay loop for me to pay $60 for such a simple concept. While fun, very simple. I mean, like a little puzzle game featuring colors and cute dudes. It's going to be fun for a little while, but paying full price for that, I got lots of games on Steam that I can play that do essentially the same thing.
My little sister loved Pikmin back in the day.
I loved Pikmin. Yeah, I beat the first Pikmin. I never played another Pikmin, but the first one was excellent. No qualms there. But personally, for my wallet, it just doesn't make sense. And considering that it is a Nintendo, first party title, probably going to be in the $60 to $70 range, which, we'll talk a little bit more.
That's the problem is it's now directly competing with other full price titles of Nintendo. Like, do you want to pay $60-$70 for Pikmin, or do you want to hold out a little bit and buy the new Zelda game?
Right. Now, if you're a Nintendo person and you are like Nintendo first party forever, then Pikmin makes sense. But for those of us that, have multiple platforms that we can play on and stuff, it just doesn't quite make the cut for me. That said, gameplay looks as solid as any other Pikmin game ever has. The boss fights look interesting and fun.
The boss fights definitely look like there's a bit of chaos involved in them there. That looks really cool. I'm enjoying the boss fights.
Yeah. Boss fights look compelling, but again, probably not enough for me to blow that wad of cash. We've got more games though.
Mm-hmm. There were several.
In fact, just in this conversation, we're going to have several. Nintendo has decided in their infinite wisdom that along with the NES, SNES, and Nintendo 64 titles that they're bringing to the Nintendo eShop for a subscription fee, they're going to be bringing us Game Boy and Game Boy Advance titles.
Now, is that going to be for the same subscription fee, like you get them all, or do you have to pay an additional subscription fee to get these?
That's a good question, and that is unknown as of yet. So that is a very, very important question that we'll be finding out, I'm sure, soon. This isn't launching today; it's launching soon. TM, and we'll have an answer for that eventually. But if it is included in your SNES and NES subscription, then I think that's just adding value to something that you're already paying for, and great.
Yeah, then
Excellent.
Then it's really cool, and it's worthy to be excited about.
Right.
Now, if they're charging you more money for it,
well,
then it is not as cool as they're trying to make it seem.
My thought is they probably will. For one subscription fee, you get NES and SNES. For an additional $3 a month, so you have to have that base subscription, but for an additional $3 a month, you get Nintendo 64. Being that this is two, separate consoles additional, I have my doubts that they're going to include it in the base membership price. Maybe if you're paying for the Plus model with a Nintendo 64, maybe I could see them adding it to that.
That would be agree. I feel like that would be agreeable. You have the basic model and then the Plus where you get all the extras.
Right.
But they might go plus.
Yeah.
You need the plus.
But I mean, honestly, having the original Pokemon games, having the Oracle of Ages, Oracle of Seasons, Legend of Zelda titles, getting things like the Minish Cap and what was the 4-player Zelda that I brought up earlier?
Four Seasons.
Four Seasons. Yeah. That great. If they have those titles, then those are things, especially Zelda titles that I missed out on, because GBA completely passed me, right? Yeah. I didn't play like any GBA except for like the Kingdom Hearts game. A lot
of Game Boy Advance.
Yeah. Yeah. So I didn't. I played a lot of Game Boy, but I never owned an Advance. I did borrow my friend's SP when he finally got a DS to play Kingdom Hearts. It was like Echo Chain Memory Saga Double XD6.
Deep Fried.
That one. So I did play Kingdom Hearts on it. And I played a slew of other games that he was willing to let me borrow, but other than that, I didn't get to play much. So I didn't get to play Minish Cap, which is, it looks like it controls just like Link to the Past, and the graphics look fantastic, and they kind of always have. The ability to play up to 4-player local or online co-op, that's cool.
That is pretty cool, because that was the number one thing with the GBA. You had to have that stupid fucking link cord and all that jazz. So now you could play these games and you do it just online. That's the one thing the GBA was missing back in the day. So that's dope. That's cool. I like it.
So actually, in the last little bit here, we are seeing that Game Boy is going to be included on Nintendo Switch Online. If you want Game Boy and Game Boy Advance, you have to be doing Nintendo Switch Online plus expansion pack. So, yeah, plus expansion pack means you're going to be paying that extra few bucks a month that includes the Nintendo 64 and GBA.
So they're kind of splitting it. They're kind of splitting the model there. So you get the old school GBA, NES for the base model, and then the plus, you get it all.
Yeah, for Nintendo Switch Online, you get NES, SNES, and Game Boy. If you get the expansion pack, you also get Nintendo 64 and GBA.
Okay, that's cool.
Yeah, that's
fairly reasonable. That's fairly reasonable.
I think it's like $9 a month or something like that. And the simple fact of the matter is that these are old games. Most of them you could probably beat relatively quickly. Like, I went back and the games that I played immediately was Donkey Kong Country. I beat that relatively quickly. Then I played Donkey Kong Country 2, and that was in a day. I beat those two games in a not a sitting, but in a day. So the fact that you can do that, unless you're playing like longer Zelda titles or something like that, you can breeze through a lot of this content, and maybe you don't have to maintain your Nintendo Switch Online. Wait until games that come out for the service that you really want to play.
Yeah, that's true. That's true.
So I don't know. It gives you the option. I'm not the biggest fan of adding more subscription services to my vast library of subscription services, but I think there is some value there to go back and play old games legally, first party.
I have strong opinions on old games.
Yeah.
And they almost always fall into archivist mentality.
Yeah.
I mean, it's easy to, even in this day and age, especially with the glut of garbage games we have, to forget that video games are a form of media.
Yes.
And stuff like Metroid 2, it came out like 30 something years ago.
Yeah.
And to be charging, I understand how Nintendo works.
Yes.
we know how their pricing works and all that.
Yeah.
But it is so common knowledge in any form of like selling product that if you have something that will attract people that costs you nothing, you give it away for free as a taste to get them to do it.
Yeah.
Right. To say, hey, if you get a Switch, we will emulate you all these old games.
Here's all these old
free.
games from our old library from consoles
have them
long past.
Like, 20, 30 years old. You know, not only are you helping to continue a new generation of gamers able to play these old classics to see, you know, what they did and what they have. And, you know, I've been there. I grew up poor. I can't imagine being a kid and being like, here's a handheld console. It's got 500 games on it.
Yeah.
Play whatever you want. Like, that's mind blowing.
Yeah.
Right?
Of
So
course, you can go to wish.com and do that. They have those little emulator devices.
I mean, you could do that. And, you know, I know it's not common knowledge and I know it's not legal, but
Yeah.
it's interesting to see them, you know, it's a good thing. I guess they bundle it with their online monthly internet, whatever, the Nintendo Online. But just the concept of paying for it, like, and again, I know it's illegal, but it is so easy to get any of these old games for free. And to charge money for them monthly, you know, it's just, it just kind of baffles me.
Yeah, no, I'm in total agreement with you on the ethics side of things. Cause
it really kind of is ethical. Like,
it is.
What point do you say, okay, this is classic. This is like Disney's archive collection. This is books from 30, 40, 50 years ago.
Right.
You know, no one's charging money to read stuff that was written 30 years ago.
Yeah.
You find those things free online, you know, and I don't know. It just grates at me.
It does.
You know,
my concession is this is Nintendo. And I would expect Nintendo to be putting out collections, right? Like classic NES collection for the Switch
just the
at
Mario
$70, right?
It's just the Zelda games.
And that's because they've done that before, you know. And they're not even remakes. They're emulating their own games for their own platforms and charging premium prices for games that, you know, most people, especially of our age group, have played before. And they're just taking your money out of pure nostalgia, right? So that's where my concession is. That's why, you know, as far as Nintendo goes, I don't think it's that bad of a deal. Good that it's included with some of your current subscriptions.
Most people are probably already paying for. Great.
Yeah. So that's, you know, I do have that mild concession. So, you know,
that would be the one good thing about it is that if you're already paying for that plus, then this is just
additional content.
Yeah, this is
good
just
for you.
Additional content. Yeah. Good news.
I mean, good for me. I'm paying for it. So So did we talk about Metroid Prime?
No, we didn't.
Oh, shoot. I was just over here watching it, man, just enjoying myself. So, hey, Metroid Prime has been remastered for the Switch. It is available today on the Nintendo eShop.
That's the one that really excites me.
Yeah.
I see a new Zelda game drop. I see this. It's almost enough to make me buy it. It makes me want to buy a Switch, but it's not actually enough to make me go buy a Switch.
Yeah, and not only is it like it looks like a faithful remake, like they've definitely made better graphics here.
Definitely looks updated.
They've modernized it, but they've also modernized the control scheme.
I love that.
Yes. So before it was a single analog shooter. Now it is a dual analog shooter. The way we've been playing shooters for the last 20 years has finally come to Metroid Prime. So when I played Metroid Prime, I was really taken aback by the fact that it wasn't dual analog shooter because I was already playing Halo.
I would say it came out like alongside Halo, so yeah, we were already really digging into that dual stick shooter. Although that that was early days for console shooters really taking off. After Halo, I just expected every shooter going forward was going to be a dual analog shooter. Yep. And going back and playing, Metroid Prime on the GameCube, it felt really foreign to me, and it took some getting used to.
Yeah, it's something you had to.
That's what happens when the wheel gets reinvented, baby.
Yeah, So while I enjoyed it, I never got to play a ton of it because I never owned a GameCube. I had friends with GameCubes. I had friends with Metroid Prime, and I got to play some Metroid Prime at some friends' houses sometimes. But I am really genuinely looking forward to playing Metroid Prime on the Switch.
That the dual stick is just going to be an incredible breath of fresh air for that game. It's more than the graphic updates. That's the big deal. I feel like even.
I think that's going to make a huge difference in the playability. And I'm desperately looking forward to playing some Metroid Prime. It's the first game that I've seen new to the Switch that I'm like pumped for. Mm-hmm. I'm ready to play.
Dude, it sends pulses. It sends pulses of nostalgia beating down my spine. Like watching that preview, it was great.
Yeah,
it was great. I'm excited. Like I said, it makes me want to buy a Switch or at least borrow yours.
Yeah, at $40, I think that now there's arguments to be made, and I would prefer a cheaper price. I think $19.99 would be a totally acceptable price for a game this old, coming out as a remaster. My excitement level is saying that $40 is okay, though. It's wrong, but it's saying it's okay. $40 is unfortunately something that, based on my nostalgia and my want to play, I'm willing to pay. I do think $40 is too much to ask for a remaster, but again, it is Nintendo.
Yeah, at the end of the day, it's Nintendo. It's like, I'm surprised it's not more.
Yeah, me too. Honestly, when I first saw it, I was like, oh boy. I was like, I don't think it's going to be $70, but I'm pretty sure it's going to be $60. Yeah. So I honestly thought this was going to be a $60 title, especially being that like it is obviously a full remaster, and they've also changed the aspect ratio. It used to be 4:3. Mm-hmm. They've changed the aspect ratio. They've updated the graphics. It looks like it might even be on a new engine for all we know. Like this could have been a real, true remaster. Because it doesn't look like they just increased resolutions here and there.
Pay attention, Rockstar.
Yeah, right. No. It looks like they did. They took some time
to remaster anything. They need to make a new fucking game.
Yes, they sure do. Oh, yeah.
Well, I already paid for that remaster.
Dude, it's so hard. Okay, so I'm a tangent here.
Yeah, little one.
Yeah, so
I will be right back.
Because Rockstar announced that they sold their 50 millionth copy of not Grand Theft Auto 5. Red Dead Redemption 2. They also announced that they today sold their 175 millionth copy of Grand Theft Auto 5. So that juggernaut is going to keep them going for quite some time, I think. The sales for that game have slowed, but have certainly not stopped. Mm-hmm. Every time it goes on sale, like Red Dead Redemption 2. Red Dead Redemption 2 saw its most concurrent players ever last month during the Steam Winter Sale. 2 months ago.
God damn.
So, yeah,
I bought it again.
Of course you did. Now, I bought it for the first time. Listen, it
was so pretty. It was so pretty. It was worth it.
It's a gorgeous game.
Oh my God. On that new hardware I have,
Dude,
was.
I was convinced. I had convinced myself that I was going to beat this open world game. Just because of how much I was enjoying it in the first two playthroughs. I haven't picked it up since.
Yeah, no,
because it's a goddamn open world game, and that's what I do with open world games.
It's been a hot minute since I picked it back up, but I've already beat it once. So
yeah. Well, speaking of open world games that I'm really excited for that I probably won't play, hey, it's time for The Legend of Zelda: Tears of the Kingdom.
Tears of the Kingdom?
Tears of the Kingdom, or Tears. I don't know. I actually haven't heard it spoken yet. I don't know that anybody necessarily has. No, they actually did during Nintendo Direct, now that I think about it. Tears of the Kingdom is coming out. We have a release date. It is going to be March 12th. at the end of the video that we're showing you for you viewers, it's going to look like it says December 5th, but that's because we're watching the Nintendo UK version of the trailer. It's March though.
Wouldn't that be May?
Sorry. Yes, May. Yes, I apologize. Okay. May. I get my M months confused sometimes. That happens to me.
He's month lexic.
The moon's evil again.
Yep, the moon's evil. So we already had Red Moon scenarios. I forget what they were called in Breath of the Wild. It's been a while since I played. But it spawned extra monsters when the Red Moon was out. It made them extra more difficult and scary and vicious. It looks like that might be a running theme for this version of Breath of the Wild. In that it seemed like, because they're showing it in the trailer, seems like it might be a prominent thing in this game. Very much harkens back to Ocarina of Time and Majora's Mask to me. That's the only other time that I can think that we got two games back-to-back, two Zelda games back-to-back on the same A, console generation, B, with the same assets and hero, and it was a continuation of the storyline of the first one. So it also features an evil moon. So I'm looking at this and I'm like, okay, did we just get Ocarina of Time with Breath of the Wild? Because and that's the simile everybody uses is Ocarina of Breath of the Wild is Ocarina of Time 2.
That is the comparison.
Yeah. Right? And then they start with an evil moon for Tears of the Kingdom. And that screams Majora's Mask to me. And I don't know, man, that's neat.
The symbolism is pretty right in your face.
Strong with this one.
Yeah, it is strong. It is strong.
So, yeah, we finally have a release date. We also know that Tears of the Kingdom is going to be $70 at launch.
Yep.
So, it was inevitable.
That's the new pricing era.
It is.
Just get used to it, y'all.
Unfortunately.
That's what it's going to be.
Yeah. Video Game Donkey.
Stick around for all these indie games we're going to talk about in a little bit that are not $70.
For sure. Video Game Donkey did a really good little expose on video game pricing and how it has been recession proof, how it's been what do you call it?
Games were $60 in the mid 90s.
Yeah, 100%. And even then, there wasn't like even a standardized pricing. Some publishers would put out a game and they'd be like, this game is worth $100, so we're charging $100 for this game, right? Like there were NES games that were coming out new that were $120. I used to go to the game shop, and unless it was a used game, you were looking at $60 and up, you know? So being that that's the case, well, now PlayStation was a little bit different. PlayStation, almost all of the PlayStation games initially were $50, but the official price hikes really happened during that era. That's when I think the $60 standardization model came to play, unless it was some kind of special edition or came with additional hardware.
Yeah.
Right? Like Steel Battalion, that was an expensive game because it came with a big-ass mech controller.
It's like $200 on top.
Which, come to find out that
it might have been more.
Yeah, that turns out that controller was not worth that. It just looked really cool, but it wasn't any better than current day controllers. So, that was an entirely its own thing. Moving on, we've got Steam Next Fest. I know it feels like we just had one, and we kind of did.
Kind of.
So we had a Steam Next Fest just before the holiday season kicked off for the winter sale. And we have Steam Next Fest again. It seems like they are doing these in a much more frequent cadence, which I am super about.
I'm for it.
Because a lot of the games that we started talking about in, for Greenlight and stuff like that, just a few months ago, now have demos, and they are part of Steam Next Fest.
Aren't they coming around?
They sure are. One of those games that we have talked about for a couple times because it's been showcased in an indie game special or Steam Next Fest is Voidtrain.
Man, I like trains.
Now, I want to mention to everybody real quick that all of the games that we're about to mention have demos available now on Steam, and that goes until this Sunday. Let me give you a date real quick. I'm pretty sure that's the 13th, but
you can play these.
It's the 12th. Yes, you can play these now all the way until the 12th. So spend your weekend on Steam, download some demos. Voidtrain.
Heck, skip school. Do it on a school night.
Do it on a school night. Voidtrain. Become a crew member of an interdimensional express train. Discover a new world full of mysterious creatures, enemies, and places. Upgrade and customize your train. Gather new materials and build better weapons. Play solo or online co-op with up to 4 people. It's made by
Dibs on the conductor.
Yes, it sure is. It's made by HypeTrain Digital. It's on Steam now and should be available sometime in 2023.
I mean, I like crafting. I like trains. Win.
Yeah. Soon we got a few days where we can play this demo.
Yeah, that should be one of the ones we try. I mean, there's a couple on here that we want to try.
I know.
Assuming the demo allows for co-op.
Yes, yeah, I do not know that the demo allows for co-op, and I was
demos have
multiplayer
like that.
And reading through the Steam page for it earlier, it wasn't immediately apparent if it was available. Now, in the blurb, it says up to 4-player co-op, right? Mm-hmm. But that could be for the full game and not necessarily for the demo page. Yeah. So it is unclear to me yet whether that is actually co-op or a single-player experience for the demo.
Well, I mean, the fact that it has 4-player co-op, like the full game will, that's a mark in its favor.
Yeah. Listen, it's a game that you play on an interdimensional train, and it's a survival crafter.
Yeah.
Sounds like fun.
Yeah, right.
Flip through void space fighting weird aliens with a revolver.
Yeah.
You know,
it looks
everything
fucking
12-year-old Josh ever wanted.
Quite novel.
Indeed. We've got another game. It's a little game that I like to call Dark and Darker.
Oh my God, this is everything 35-year-old Josh wants.
Now, we've talked about Dark and Darker before, but it is officially in its second playtest, and this is another one that I think all of us are really wanting to play.
Definitely.
Real quick blurb is it's an unforgiving hardcore fantasy FPS dungeon PvPvE adventure. Band together with your friends and use your courage, wits, and cunning to uncover mythical treasures, defeat gruesome monsters, while staying one step ahead of other devious treasure hunters.
To translate that, it's old school D&D Tarkov.
Yes. That is 100% what it is. Mm-hmm. You could also, I assume, you could call it a roguelite in that there is progression, but progression is you stop progressing if you die inside of a level. You do keep like constant character progression.
Yeah, I mean it's the same with Tarkov.
Yeah,
with Cycle Frontier and all that stuff.
Exactly. It is that gameplay loop, but it's medieval dark fantasy.
Yeah, you got your wizards and your clerics and your rogues,
rogues and your barbarians.
Yeah,
up to it looks like 3 people. I think is what we determined in a party.
3 people for a squad. Yeah.
Man, that bums me out a little bit. So in a lot of the Apex, in this, it's 3-man teams, and we generally like to roll as a foursome.
We do. I think for the most part, it's probably a balance issue, especially in a game that it focuses quite a bit on PvP as well.
Yeah. No, I guess I kind of understand it, but it bums me out because we don't have 6 regular players, but can get 4 on the reg, you know?
I think it would also be kind of a clusterfuck seeing how small these maps are. Not full maps, but like rooms within a map or within a level of the dungeon are fairly small.
Yeah. One thing I just thought of to consider is like, let's say you had a game like this or Apex or whatever, and you want a map to have 10 teams on it.
Yeah.
Right. 10 teams at 3 players each is 30. At 4 players each, it's 40. Right.
Yeah.
And when it comes to multiplayer netcode and making sure everybody's having a smooth experience, that's a massive jump in the number of people connected to a single instance.
Yeah.
Right. So it could just be down to conservative limitations of multiplayer coding.
Mm-hmm.
You know, they want it to
Absolutely
run well. And, you know, if you had 4 players as opposed to 3, then with the same amount of players per server, you're losing 25% of the teams, 33%, whatever it is. I've been drinking numbers. So, yeah, I mean, it does suck because 4 players, at least in our group, you know, it's not the same for every group, but that's easy to do.
Yeah, right? For sure. I mean, we're talking about building up a Valheim server here, and we'll talk about that a little bit after Next Fest, but we're talking about getting a Valheim server up. And the last time we did that, we ended up with like 6 or 7 players at times. So, or maybe 6. I think it was 5 or 6 players at times. Yeah. So, and that became cumbersome. But that's that's realistic for us. We have people in our friend group that like to play games together. So, the more the merrier typically, which is why we're setting up a dedicated server for Valheim. But yeah, we'll come back to that. Speaking of dungeons and darkness, there's Darkest Dungeon 2.
Yes.
Anybody acquainted with the original Darkest Dungeon? I think it was a massive Steam favorite. It did very well.
Now, I played mine on the Xbox, but a similar experience. So same.
Yeah, it's a menu-based.
Oh yeah, it doesn't really matter how you're playing it. It's a good game. Yeah. Darkest Dungeon 2 seems like it's going to be more Darkest Dungeon.
Yeah. So far, it looks like everything that was correct and fun about the first game is going to be here, plus a little bit extra.
Yeah.
So, I mean, no notes.
Yeah.
No notes. I'm excited to try the demo to see if my hunch is in fact correct, but it just looks like updated Darkest Dungeon. It looks great.
I'm wondering if
the darker and darker and Darkest Dungeon is really fucking throwing me off
I know, dude.
Oh my guy, oh my
Darkens
god.
and Dunger.
I'm just wondering if they're going to further increase the difficulty because there's expectations that you know how to play the game at this point.
I mean, yes and no. You could always do like no light runs where common difficulty increases in the first one. And more so, I think there's PvP from what I remember seeing. Because like I saw some YouTubers playing this last year. Or maybe it was last year. So
I feel like they're going to try and use what you think you know against you. In
You
some
think so?
things. Yeah, I think it's going to be a flipper.
it's the kind of game that difficulty is very easy to modify, and they can make it really hard really quick through just simple changes. How much stress your characters get, how long it takes them to recover, how much it costs to refuel all your things, not to mention the actual difficulty of the monsters you're fighting. So,
Man, it seems like a game that is ripe for a randomizer.
could be.
Yeah.
Yeah. They might even have a mode like that, just a free-form mode where you just fight after fight and you get to heal every once in a while and get stuff. So.
Yeah. Well, I made it clear that we all know Darkest Dungeon. But for those of you that don't, Darkest Dungeon 2 is a roguelike road trip of the damned. Form a party, equip your stagecoach, and set off across the decaying landscape on a
dang old
decaying landscape on a last gasp quest to avert the apocalypse. God, that's hard to. The alliteration here is.
That's
fun.
its own dungeon right there.
Yep.
The greatest dangers you face, however, may come from within. It's how do you describe Darkest Dungeon for those of us that haven't played?
Darkest Dungeon is a turn-based party Diablo with Cthulhu-esque sanity mechanics.
Yeah, I think that nails it pretty well.
Yeah.
Yeah, you have a D&D-esque party of extremely gothic characters that will slowly go insane and develop all kinds of crazy, either good or bad outcomes, depending on how lucky you are. And you try to press them as far as you can, but it's much like XCOM in that your individual units need to take breaks.
Yes.
So your team that you go into a dungeon with isn't necessarily all the people you have. You will have more, but then you have to balance how much you're spending on maintaining a large party.
Yeah.
It's got very XCOM in that sense.
Yeah, and good amount of resource
games,
management.
I don't like XCOM, but I like Darkest Dungeon. Maybe that's just
Well, you don't
the
you don't
theme.
like grid type XCOM titles. I think it would be the differentiator here.
Yeah, this has the overarching like meta play of XCOM, but not the actual grid based combat.
Yeah.
So
it's almost RPG style combat.
Which I
so,
mean,
turn-based.
I was gonna say, I really dig.
Yeah.
And just the whole theme of it was really fun. It's dark and
the
it's
cherry on the top
creepy.
is the narrator is fantastic.
Yes.
And
Yeah, big time.
absolutely makes the game. So
For sure. Next up, we've got Plan B Terraform. Now, Nick, you know a little bit about this game already?
This is now. I'm going to take the lead here real quick.
Okay.
I believe this is where you try to build a Planned Parenthood in a red state.
Red Planet, not Red State.
Oh, okay. I missed just a little bit there. Just a little bit.
So yeah, I was talking about a little bit. Just colonizing Mars as a video game genre is not new, and there's a good 4 to 6 out there that I remember playing off the top of my head. The interesting thing about this one is from the demo I played, which gets you through the first few kind of tech levels to the point where you're, having to set up little bases that all combine somewhere to then transport resources somewhere else. And just as the game is beginning to take off, the demo ends. It knows its limits, I think, is the best way to describe this. Like I said, I've played other Colonizing Mars games, and some of them have been pretty good. Some of them have been utter flops. And this one falls, I'd almost call it like a Factorio light or a Satisfactory medium. It's, somewhere,
medium satisfactory.
Yeah. It's not a well done steak, but you're not having to eat raw lamb here, right? Short trailer, but yeah, it's mostly logistics and throughput and bandwidth and optimization and efficiency, but not to a degree like you would get in Factorio.
Yeah.
And the goal is to literally greenify Mars. You don't get nearly that far in the demo that I played, but it played really well, and I enjoyed the way they decided to tackle those common mechanics you see in city building, games of this style. So some good choices. Again, the demo, 3 hours at most, 2 hours. Maybe I was taking my time and going ridiculous with it. Seeing
It's fairly generous for a demo, I feel like.
Yeah, it's probably got about an hour and a half worth of real content.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, you have you'll have iron somewhere, right? And then you have silver somewhere else and other things. So if you want to make a city, you need concrete and steel, and those are multiple steps of buildings that have to pass their resources down the chain from raw resource to primary to secondary to finished product and ship it out. And trying to make that efficient is it's the fun of those games, and you either love it or you hate it. So if you like Dyson Sphere Project and Satisfactory and Factorio and Surviving Mars and Terraforming Mars, the board game, this is right up that venue.
I love those games. I am not terribly good at them, but I do love them.
I think this one, the pace it gave you and the fact that it's not punishing.
Mm-hmm.
There are fail states, but you'd have to go out of your way to achieve them.
Well, I mean, you know how I play Satisfactory. I am absolutely willing to be there helping you manufacture and turn, make enormous factories. We put a lot of time into this.
It kind of sounds like it's training wheels for a game like Satisfactory, though, right? Like you could kind of get used to those,
I would equate
those mechanics, that style of game. Like if you think you'd like this style of game, and something like Satisfactory, you get in there and it blows your head off. So then something like this might be more up your speed as the training wheels going, don't let go, Dad. I need you back.
Yeah, it's not in the same category as Factorio. Okay. I don't even think it's as complicated as Satisfactory.
Okay.
But it's not simple.
Sure.
Right? You are still going to need to monitor things and think about numbers, but the numbers are very simple.
To me, I mean, based on what I've seen so far, and I've seen more than just the trailer so far, I've watched some gameplay footage too. It looks like it's like a cross between Factorio and like a colonizing sim.
Yeah, it's there was another game that just came out last year that is colonizing Mars that got really big, and then it came out and it was kind of crap. Yeah. And it's surprising how close they look. Mm-hmm. So yeah, with these kinds of games,
sure, they're kind of a dime a dozen, but this one looks like it seems as
what I said.
polished.
I wanted to bring up specifically because I felt like they did a really good job.
That's important. Yeah, that's important to showcase, right? Yeah. Is that it does things that other things are doing, but it does them well, right? Mm-hmm.
Definitely.
Next up, hold on, I got a blurb real quick. Terraform a lifeless rock into a lush inhabitable world. Build trucks, trains, and sprawling factories on an enormous hexagonal planet. Grow its population to millions. Enjoy a dynamic simulation of atmosphere, temperature, water, and forests. Due out February 15th, 2023.
Yeah. That's right around the corner.
Basically, the demo ends, and they've got 3 days to tidy it up and ship it. So, it is coming out real soon. Next up on the list, Nick, you also have some info for this one as well. This is Phantom Brigade.
Phantom Brigade. So yeah, I watched Splattercat Gaming. Highly recommend YouTube channel. Play this sometime in the past. I don't have memory. I was not installed with that at birth. But it has some neat concepts. You know, this reminds me so much of like the PS2 era games where it was just a given that every game was going to have some extremely off-the-wall novel concept because it was a PlayStation
Yeah,
game,
dude.
right? Like,
Everything.
let's introduce a mechanic based on
Yeah.
how many inkhorns your mother ate in the time before time.
Almost all the games you played in the PlayStation 1 and PlayStation 2 era,
Yeah.
unless they were like established franchises, were all experiments.
Yeah,
Right.
They definitely were. And I got huge vibes off that from this game. So what I remember watching was a single player story mission based intro to the game. It's a little hard to describe, but the shtick here is that you're in a mech and it's kind of a top down, almost war gamey looking
This is throwing serious
thing.
XCOM vibes.
XCOM, but the deal, and I don't remember exactly how this works, but as you're planning out your move, the facing of the mech, how fast you're moving, where you're moving, is all holographically shown to you as like your next turn. So you program that out. And as you're moving your mech and deciding where they go, the time pauses and starts just like it does in like super hot. So the enemies are moving while you're moving. So if you want to move your mech, 100 feet forward and turn them left to shoot, you get a holographic representation of what the enemy is going to likely be doing. And you get to essentially, I wouldn't call it like bullet time, but you get to kind of predict what the enemy's doing.
Yeah.
Mostly. It's not 100%. If you're able to see our stream, you can see a little bit of what I'm talking about.
And what I'm seeing here is extremely familiar to me. It looks like they're scrubbing along a timeline.
Yeah,
like
you have the ability to move back and forth through this timeline.
Yeah,
to
and you're
really
seeing-
tweak your individual settings.
Yeah, and on the timeline you can see some of what the enemy is doing, some of what you're doing, and where your actions take place. It literally looks like an Adobe Premiere timeline.
Yeah, I mean, that's how it plays out.
Yeah.
And it's important because the game, if you don't take advantage of this, you will get your shit kicked in. It's hard on purpose. The storyline is you are the underdog. So without this ability, you'd be kind of screwed. But on top of that, facing is very important, so you get to take advantage of that. And from what we're seeing here, lots of customization options for your mechs. I'm sure you probably get to maybe scrap opponents and get resources from them that you
I'm
can
just
then
saying,
add
dude,
to
if I have a
yours.
mech, I want the one with the rims on it.
Exactly. I don't know off the top of my head if this is multiplayer or not, but it looks like you can have up to multiple mechs in a squad. What I had seen was only one mech at a time. But yeah, Ring of Red vibes, Armored Core vibes.
Yeah.
I mean, even just the sheer novelty of it reminds me of like Dark Cloud, where the way you laid out buildings in your city determined like things that happen in the dungeon. It's that level of novel, it doesn't play anything like Dark Cloud, but
No, sure.
yeah, I'd love mechs. Who doesn't love mechs? They're like dwarves and ninjas and
Yep.
pirates, right?
Except for
Kaidos.
better.
And yeah, it looks like there might be some overarching meta campaign progress as you're a rebel trying to fight back against people. I didn't get to see any of this in the video I watched, but yeah, it's very, very cool. I love novelty. I love novelty that's done well.
Yeah.
I'm definitely going to be playing the demo of this one.
The more I watch of it, the more I'm into it. Because, when I first started looking at this, it looked like XCOM Plus with mechs. And I was like, well, mechs makes XCOM better for me because I've never been an XCOM guy. It's just not it's not a genre that appeals to me.
The whole
I'm
time
an
stream,
XCOM guy.
the whole
Yeah.
altering, that's kind of neat. Because you're not just shooting at the static target; they're reacting to you, reacting to them reacting.
I love that.
It's the it's Inception XCOM, baby.
In that way, it's very similar to Into the Breach. The concept that you are overwhelmed and outnumbered, but you're able to persevere through the ability to optimize your actions and predict what the opponent's doing.
Right.
And they give the player this strength that feels good to have.
Yeah.
Because then you feel like, you had to use every tool you had to overcome these challenges. So be
Looks
interested
good.
to try it and see how it actually plays out.
Yeah, definitely. Now, real quick from developers, Phantom Brigade is a hybrid turn-based and real-time tactical RPG with an innovative timeline-based command system. See the future, predict enemy actions, and plot your counterattack on the timeline. Outnumbered and outgunned, lead the brigade's campaign to retake their war-torn homeland. Brace Yourself Games is the developer. It's going to be out on Steam February 28th. We have 3 weeks before this game comes out.
Okay.
Yeah.
I have to go donate plasma.
I know. So I mean, these games are. We've been talking about so many of these. Like, we had to omit a bunch of games because we've talked about them on multiple occasions. But we are creeping up on so many of their release dates. Like, a lot of these demos, their release dates are like February, March, April. Mm-hmm. You know, almost all of them have like a distinct launch date now, and it's soon. Some are still a little hazy as far as the release date. Some of them are going into just straight up early access as well, which we'll talk about one in just a little bit. But for now, we're going to talk about Inkbound. Inkbound reinvents turn-based gameplay in a fluid online co-op roguelike from the creators of Monster Train. Play solo or party up to dive into the magical, dangerous books of the Anthemium library and fight to save this rich, ever-expanding world. It's made by Shiny Shoe. It's going to be available on Steam now as a demo and available in Q2 2023, so still soon.
Yeah. So if you didn't play Monster Train, you're missing out. Monster Train was really at the height of those kind of what do you even call them? Like
card-based
roguelikes,
RPG roguelikes.
Yeah,
I mean, they have a lot of elements from a lot of different genres. Mm-hmm. You know,
is one part tower defense, one part card game, one part roguelike, and it hit the sweet spot. This shares almost nothing with Monster Train other than maybe the color palette. Is the only similarity here. But I did get to watch about half an hour of some YouTubers streaming this, pair of people that were doing it co-op. It is very much a rogue light. You have lots of setup in the beginning of picking perks and powers and abilities and what class you have. And it seems to be that you go from arena to arena. So there's very little to do in between fights, from what I noticed. But when the fights happen, you have enemies spawn, and then you have a certain amount of action points, and a lot of your abilities move you, and you have a little wiggle room. I don't know if they're going to show it here, but you can kind of maneuver your character within like a 2 or 3 foot radius before you can attack to set yourself up, make sure your strike or slash or cleave hits as many people as possible. But every turn that goes by, the arena gets smaller. On top of that, more and more enemies spawn. You get rewards for doing certain things in the battle that makes it harder or whatnot. And then, of course, rewards at the end of each fight as you progress through the roguelite, trying to optimize your build, replacing your abilities, upgrading your abilities, choosing when to pivot, when to swap, and hopefully synergizing with your co-op buddy. The one I watched, they had one guy going full crit build, and the other one was more defensive buffing, so they can kind of bounce off each other and work together. I didn't see much of the meta play as far as like out-of-game upgrades and how that goes. I watched about 4 fights. So nothing new, novel, but a lot of ideas, much like Monster Train, combined into essentially a novel idea.
Yeah.
I really dig the art scheme of the game. It looks really, really freaking cool. Kind of like if Diablo was taking place in Alice in Wonderland.
Yeah, it's very torchlight.
It's really cool looking. I dig it, and I dig the concept of the arena shrinking down. This looks fun. This looks fun.
Yeah, I'm always down for co-op games.
Yeah, that's the thing. Is like also a lot of these games are co-op.
Mm-hmm.
That's what happens when you get Steam games made by indie developers. They understand that, like, oh yeah, people like to play together.
So yeah, if you like roguelites, you like Katana Zero, you like Slay the Spire, Breach Wanderers, Monster Train.
Yep.
This is along that vein. That ever push to take what RNG gives you and try to optimize it and finish a run is a satisfying feeling.
Yeah, definitely. Well, hey, we got more games.
More games.
Did you know
Did you know?
We've talked about Boundary quite a few times.
We have.
Yeah.
At least once or twice.
But
It's fantastic.
There's a
But-
demo out now.
there is a demo out now. So Boundary is a multiplayer tactical space-based shooter game engaging in fierce team versus team, zero-gravity firefights, and executing low-gravity operations on orbiting space installations against other enemy astro operators and other entities. This is made by Studio Surgical Scalpels. It's coming out this year. No official release date yet, just that it's coming out 2023. But there's a fucking demo out now of this first-person space shooter game in zero gravity, in realistic space suits and guns, and the way you move makes sense, and like real-life looking space stations.
Force, but real.
Yes, this is Space Force, but real. So we've all been really excited about this one. It looks super realistic.
You're gonna have to fight like this is gonna play more akin to like a fucking old school dogfight, man. You're gonna have to you gotta watch the doors and corners, bitch. That's where they get you.
Gotta play like Titanfall.
Dude, it's oh man.
Well, but that's the thing is you have to watch your doors and corners in fucking 3D.
Yeah.
You know, because like there's a dude on the ceiling that's watching the other
back
corners.
of the fucking sun gatherer energy, solar flare, not that
Panel.
No. Panel.
Cheese.
This is just it looks so good.
And hopefully the gameplay holds up. We've been talking a lot of hype about it because it looks fantastic.
Yeah.
This
But what
is
we
gonna
have seen
a
so
demo,
far-
so I'm definitely going to play it, and I will have words.
Yeah, and so far we've seen like quite a bit of gameplay interstitched with a bunch of theatrical stuff as well. But it certainly looks good. Like this looks like it could do for shooters what's the Portal Halo game?
Portal. Oh, Splitgate.
Splitgate. Yeah.
Yeah.
It can be like it can have
A
really
Splitgate
Splitgate impact,
Yep.
right? Like you're adding other genres and dimensions to a shooter, and
Yes.
God does if any genre needs a little bit of refresh,
Yeah,
it's the
a little
fucking
fresh
shooter
air,
genre.
yeah, let me tell
So thank God,
Most
So
definitely.
been looking really forward to this one coming out, and fortunately now we have a demo. And that is going to be, again, available until the 12th of this month. So, if you've got a PC that can play it, check it out.
And it's gonna offer upgrade. You can be able to upgrade your suit, your guns. So there's still some upgradey options.
Oh, yeah.
too. So it's gonna be fun, man.
It looks like it could be a blast. Like, really looking forward to getting in, playing it, and judging for myself instead of looking at cool trailers. But like, I as long as it is a solid shooter and it controls well, I think it's going to be solid.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. At
And
least
if
I'm
it's
hopeful.
shit, we'll let you know.
Yeah, true. Well, that's it for what we chose for Steam Next Fest this year. I had another one on the list called Broken Arrow.
I had another 5 on the list.
Well, yeah, I mean, I had a bunch that I want to throw too, but there's also a lot that we've talked about at length, on the podcast previously. There's a bunch of new stuff, but we try to keep it, under an hour, which we're not going to make this time, but we try to keep it relatively short and give you the upper crust. So, that's what we've got chosen for the podcast this week, but there is certainly a ton more.
Definitely check it out for yourself.
For sure. So
Steam Next Fest.
it's on the front page of Steam. You just have to click Next Fest. If you go to the front page, you click Next Fest. It's going to take you. I mean, like I'm doing it live right now for the Twitch stream. There is so many games to be looked at.
And dozens and dozens.
System Shock, the fucking System Shock remake demo is available. Yeah. Shadows of Doubt, the super weird graphic noir title that we were talking about a few episodes ago, that's up.
If they don't have something for you, you're doing it wrong.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, there's a bunch of games that we've talked about already. There's a bunch of games that we also need to explore. Like since we started podcasting, Tribe Primitive Builder has started to go way up on the list. This was further down on the list, but a lot of people are downloading this demo right now. That's probably something to look out for. This list is changing rapidly as far as how many people are downloading what and when. So it's worth checking out. There's no reason not to check out as many demos as you can with as limited time as you have, because they're all free. Get in on it. Get your games list curated for 2023. It's an exciting time to be a gamer, especially when so many of these games are coming out this year and soon.
Right?
Yeah.
Before we wrap up, I do want to bring it up because it absorbed a week of my life, and I've literally had to step away from it because if I start playing it, I don't stop. Is a game called Against the Storm. Let's talk about novels. So this is a city builder, colony management, all that, right? Except it's a roguelite. And each individual city you build takes between about an hour or two. And it is so fun. It has a very, very good progression in difficulty that you get to kind of choose when you make it harder, but you earn meta currency faster for doing so. Generally, the idea is you have this world that is racked by this evil storm. The only remaining city left is ruled by the queen and this volcano. Every 10 years, the cycle ends and the storm wipes the face of the planet clean and everything gets started over. And in those 10 years, the queen sends out envoys, one of which is you, to create little camp settlements to try to gather as many resources as possible to send back to the town before the cycle starts everything over. So each cycle you play between probably on average 4 to 6 settlements, earning meta currency to make future runs different or easier as the difficulty gets harder. It has a rain punk vibe. It's a term they use where each individual town as you're playing real time goes through different seasons and the rain does different stuff. You have to survive the storm. But the general idea, it looks like Warcraft 3. Very much so. Plays like an RTS in the sense that you're building buildings that have different production. But it is a roguelite, and that like the perks you're optioned and the people you get and the resources you get from achieving missions is all RNG, and you have to try to focus down a build because you will not be able to do everything in any given run. And as you explore the wilderness and break into glades that come in various difficulties, they provide challenges that you have to overcome, usually based on a hard real-life time limit to accomplish certain stuff. There are no enemies that are coming and attacking your people, but the best thing this game does is it is chock-a-block with interesting, tough choices. Everything you're doing is giving you a bonus somewhere and causing problems somewhere else. The main factor is that you have 2 axes, the queen's impatience and the forest hostility. The forest literally gets pissed off the more you cut it down and the more you expand your town, and the queen gets more and more impatient if you don't do stuff that she wants you to do, fulfilling certain missions and objectives. However, the more pissed off the queen is, the less the forest is bothered because you're focusing on production stuff. And the more you piss off the forest, the more the queen is understanding, and it lowers her impatience. So these axes are a balancing act that you have to try to, keep in tandem until your engine is built so fast that you can steamroll through and win a mission. I can't count the number of runs I've had where everything is going to shit. I'm literally cannibalizing my people, burning bones I found in the forest to keep warm during the storm, and 20 minutes later, my engine took off and I steamrolled and went out of nowhere, right? And like, I've never had like a city builder where I butt pucker.
Yeah.
But I highly, highly recommend it. They just overhauled the rain punk system where you can use rainwater to improve all your production buildings and make them more efficient, but it causes like the plants to attack your city during the storm and take over your buildings. I'm just now getting into that difficulty, and it's a whole new system to learn. But yeah, lots of room for learning little tiny mechanics to optimize every little run. And, you might do a meat and leather run and make bags and, trade goods in one. The other one might all be about building lots of buildings, or another one might be about selling a lot of stuff. And highly, highly recommend it. I love it. So,
and this is early access?
It is one of those games that if I didn't know it was early access, there's no way I would have said it wasn't.
Oh, yeah. What we're watching, it looks like it's extremely
polished. I haven't seen a single bug. The graphics are, for the aesthetic the game has, off the charts. Everything is smooth. I would have swore it was full release when I played it. But one thing, and this is something I like to bring up, the developers have been releasing on-time 2-week updates for many, many, many months without missing a beat. Every 2 weeks, the game's getting tweaked or bugs fixed or new content's getting added. And those are the kinds of early access games you should support. Like, you know, they're clearly using early access for what it's there for, trying to generate a little bit of revenue to keep the income coming in so they can continue to tweak and upgrade their game. And they've been doing it. They have a video on YouTube of what the game looked like a year and a half ago, and they scrubbed through, you know, the progress of it, and it's pretty mind-blowing. So
it's nice that they're reinvesting into the game and they're following what the fans of the game are saying. Hey, here's the bug there, you know, fix this. Like you just said, they updated a mechanic. So
if you like Warcraft or Age of Empires or Slay the Spire and average roguelike games, any city settlement building games, games with tough choices, this is definitely one of those.
Yeah.
So highly recommend it. It's $20. It's not
Looks
a Nintendo
awesome.
title.
I feel like I said we were going to talk about something at the end of the podcast, but I don't remember what it was.
Oh, Valheim.
Other than Valheim.
Starting up a server.
We are going to be starting up a Valheim server. I don't think I'm going to be making it public, but we're likely going to be streaming some Valheim together.
Got the new Mistlands update. We got to catch up.
Find out what all this magic stuff is about and the mysteries of the Mistlands. So
Get our shit kicked in.
Yeah.
Yep.
So we're going to be checking that out here in the coming days. Also, I am hell-bent on getting a few of these demos done as well. So if I find the time to spend like a good amount of time in a demo or two, I plan on streaming that as well, especially seeing that our Valheim server is also going to be our new official stream PC. So we will have a dedicated stream PC, so I can do things like just stream whenever for any game.
Pissing constant.
That's true.
Dedicated stream.
Dedicated stream.